Hello, my name is Sue Wilt. I'm with TIU 11, and this is part 3 in a series of videos about using Hypothesis. Hypothesis is a collaborative annotation tool, and in part 1, I gave an overall demonstration or illustration of how it is used to increase student engagement between student and instructor, as well as student and other students. In part 2, I demonstrated how to add the Hypothesis app to a Canvas course. And in part 3, this video, I'd like to show you how to add articles within the course that will use Hypothesis. So let's go to my Canvas course. And you will see this Canvas course has sample lessons. And in the first video, I illustrated how Hypothesis was used within these first 5 items. So I'm going to add a new one. Okay, when you go add item to sample lessons, that's the name of my module. I actually scroll down and I say I want to add with an external tool. And then all my external tools would be listed. So I'm using Hypothesis. And within Hypothesis, you can select a web page or a PDF. So the first thing I'm going to illustrate is to enter a URL of a web page. Do that. And then I'm going to paste my web page. Actually, that was just my Zoom meeting. Let me get my URL from my web page. Okay, I enter that, submit. Okay, and it shows it in the URL, the page name. This is about study habits. Add the item. Now you see I've added study habits to my module. I'm going to publish it. I'm going to open it up. And you can see here's, well, Hypothesis likes to pop open at the same time. Here's an article about the habits of highly effective students. So let's assume that I assigned this to my students and I want them to focus on what habits they already have versus what habits they would like to develop. So I can use annotation, or excuse me, use Hypothesis, and I can, well, let me go back to the title because it requires you to highlight something. And when you actually highlight something and Hypothesis pops up, you have a choice of annotate, meaning what you highlighted will be shared with others and others can comment on, or I can truly just use highlight and then it is just private to my own viewing when I open up this article. So I want to annotate and I'm going to say, what habits do you already have? And which ones would you like to develop? Again, this is just my prompt that I would use to maybe start developing the interaction between students and myself or students and other students. So it's as easy as that to be able to add this item to Canvas and use Hypothesis. Now let's go back to the home and let's add just from a PDF from my Google Drive. So I'm going back to sample lessons and saying add. What do I want to add? I want to add using an external tool. I want to add using Hypothesis. And again, it's given me the option of entering the URL of the web page or PDF, or select the PDF for my Google Drive. So I'm going to do the Google from my Google Drive. And I believe I have one in here about a GED study guide. So I'm going to select that one. Again, now you can see that URL is listed there. Page name, this one, I'm just going to call it GED study guide. And that's what will appear when I add the item. I'm going to publish it. And so now When this item is opened, the GED study guide would appear. Again, by default, the hypothesis dialog appears. So I'm just going to close that. And let's say with this particular question about unit rates, let's say that I will actually highlight it and I want someone to explain the solution. So I do that. Again, if I choose actually highlight, only I will see this, but I'm going to annotate and say, can you explain the solution process for this question? And then post. And there it is. Anybody who opens up this page will actually see my prompt. And again, hopefully it encourages some interaction. And it's that simple to use Hypothesis when it's added to a Canvas course. I hope you learned a lot and maybe you'll start using Hypothesis. Thank you very much.